Alright, engineers. In this video, we're going to be going over the final project rubric. So pay close attention. You're going to have some questions on this Edpuzzle. You're going to make sure that you understand exactly what is expected out of you for this final project. So in section 1, that is the first part of the design process, the ask phase. And to get all 8 points in this section, the first thing you need to do is identify a specific problem that someone at Cristo Rey or someone in your life has identified and can be solved with a 3D printed object. So you need to make sure that that is possible to be solved, and then you need to include that problem in your slides. That's the first point. Then 3 more points for the interview. So you're going to interview the person who you're solving the problem for. You're going to take some notes on that. And then with those notes, you're going to come up with some criteria and some constraints for your design. So there's several things that just for this project description alone, you would have as constraints. I'm thinking about time constraints, thinking about size constraints for the 3D printers that we have. But you're also going to have some that are specific to the product that you're creating. So those need to be listed out. The more you list out, the better chance you have at getting all 3 points there. Then after you've done that, then you're going to break down the problem a little bit further using the 5 W's of product design. Now, you don't need to hit every single one of these. If some of these are not relevant to what you're designing, then don't try to answer the question. But if any of these questions or all of these questions are relevant to the product that you're designing, then those should be answered and included in your slides. Okay, moving on to section 2, that's the imagine phase. So this is where we're doing some research to see maybe is there some product that exists already that we could use as kind of inspiration, or if there isn't something that exists, then we need to come up with some different brainstorms, some different ideas. So remember, those brainstorm sketches do not have to be dimensioned, they don't have to be drawn from a specific angle, they're just getting ideas out there. During this process too, you might identify different parts that you need. So maybe you need some magnets, maybe you need some double-sided tape, super glue. Those are all things that you're going to want to include in this part, and you're going to want to let me know as a teacher if you need those in advance so that we can get those ordered before the final project is due. So whatever research you do, you're probably going to have more than 4 pieces of research. Oh, sorry, another thing that you could include in this research, if you're trying to create something in Onshape that we've never created before, you might have to go find a YouTube video that could help you with that. And that could also be, example of research there if you're looking for maybe hinges or interlocking boxes or something like that. All right, so once you've found all that research, then you're going to include that in your slide. So you need at least 4 pieces. That's 4 points right there. Anything less than 4 would not count. Feel free to include more than 4. Whatever research you do should be included in this part. Okay, moving down to the planning phase. So this is where the designer is really going to step up. The designer is going to create hand drawings of the idea, the final idea that you have for your product, and they're going to do that from the top, the front, and the side. And then the other 3 points here are dimensioning the width, length, and height. And the big thing with that is that when you start creating an Onshape, I've seen before where people they start creating any size and they don't put any dimensions on it. So I want you to really have that clearly drawn out exactly how big this is going to be with regards to the width, the length, and the height. So that should be included in your hand drawings. So we have to have 3 of those hand drawings, top, front, and right. And then the width, length, and height all labeled in at least one of those sketches. Okay, now we're moving to the create phase. So we need to create the actual product in Onshape, making sure that we follow this correct name. So it's your class initials, final project, and then your last name. If you're a team, then the second person's last name as well. Once you've created the actual Onshape document, then you're going to go through and create the model. This is going to be important that the manager and the designer are kind of working together, because the manager is going to need to document the different steps that the designer is taking to make the actual design. So, if they're creating a first sketch and then extruding it, are they, creating a couple sketches and then doing a sweep or a revolve? What is actually happening for this object to be created in Onshape? You can include screenshots. I think descriptions are something that's good. You would need both of those. And there should be 5 slides, a minimum of 5 slides showing this. So no, you don't have to show every single little step, but the key steps along the way, a minimum of 5 of those, need to be recorded in the slides. And then finally, that model needs to be shared with me in Onshape. It needs to be done on time. Okay, so then we move into the testing phase, and in the testing phase, that's where you're either going to be printing out a prototype, so an actual version of your product, to test and see whether it works, whether things fit in it. If your product is very large and that prototype would take a long time, then instead of doing that, we're going to use the Onshape assemblies. So you would create models of different things. For example, if you're making a makeup organizer, you would have to create models of all the different makeup things that would go in that organizer, and then make sure in the Onshape assembly that they fit. So it's not necessarily that you have to print a prototype, but you need to have either the prototype printed and pictures of that taken and tested, or you have the Onshape assembly and you have all those artifacts that would be interacting with your product created and put into an assembly to show that they fit. So that's 4 points. It's a big part of that section. And then the other thing in that section is just what you learned. So what did you learn from that test? Did you learn that it was too small, too big, doesn't look quite right? Does it fit perfect? What did you learn from that test? So you would write a paragraph in the slides that includes what you learned from the test. Okay, we're getting to our last section here. So this is once we're finished with everything, we have a final product that is printed out. So not a prototype. We have a final product that's after the prototype that is printed out and given to the person who it's designed for, and you can take pictures or take a video that shows the effectiveness of that product. So show it working for the person. Now, if you can get that product back just to borrow for the invention convention, I think that would be really cool. But if not, then just a picture or a video of that product working for the person will suffice. In addition to that final product being given to the person and that documented, you also need to include a reflection. So if you're working in a group, both people need to create the reflection. The reflection is a paragraph that answers any of these questions here. So any of those questions, or multiple of those questions, but it needs to be a paragraph showing, it's kind of a culminating thing showing what you're taking away from the course. And then the final thing that will happen for the sharing part is that you'll be graded on your actual presentation. So you're going to present your slides to a faculty member here at Cristo Rey, and they're going to grade you according to this oral presentation rubric, which we will go over as we get closer to the actual time. So the only other big thing you need to know, there is the small part, the effective use of work time. If you're distracted, if you are out of the hallways and you are not working on this project, you're not using your time effectively, that's the only way that you could lose points here. You should just be given 2 points for you. As long as you're in class, working on what you're supposed to be doing, then you'll get that full credit there. All right, good luck on this project. I am looking forward to seeing the different products that you guys design.